is my 17th year. I've worked in the Southwest all these years, supporting the Four Corner states and Wyoming. And the last few years, you folks in Colorado have seen me quite a bit because I've been pretty much focused on Colorado. But I did spend years working in Utah and Arizona and New Mexico and all these great spots. And my job at Esri, I know many of the folks who've joined the meeting. My job here is I'm a solution engineer, so I help our users understand and implement our technology, figure out what's right, what's the best solution, what's the best technology path and deployment situation for them for whatever they're working with. So it's a really cool job. I get to work with all of our technology, kind of get to be a jack of all trades, master of none or one or something. I don't know, but it's a really fun position. And also with me today is my teammate Shelby Hines. Shelby, do you want to jump in and introduce yourself real quick?
Sure, thanks, Dave. Yeah, we're so happy to be here today. Thank you, GISCO, for hosting this training, and we're excited about the topics that we're delivering today. My name is Shelby Hines. I am also a solution engineer out of the Esri Louisville office.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Although we've been, working from home for quite some time now. I am a counterpart of Dave on the team, and I've been with Esri for 5 years. I have a background in emergency management, and I currently support larger cities and counties in New Mexico, as well as in Colorado. Dave and I kind of split the larger, actually split all local gov accounts across the state of Colorado. So happy to be here, and back to you, Dave.
Cool. Thanks, Shelby. A couple of notes on the topics we chose today. These are two things that are, Shelby and I are talking to our users about both of these things on a very regular basis. I probably have a field maps meeting 2 or 3 times a week with someone in the state, just interested in knowing about field maps and what it means, and what the migration process is like, and so forth. The crime analyst toolbar is not just for crime analysts. So I hope everybody gets to stick around for that part too, because that is really exciting. That is a lot of that is working with ArcGIS Pro, using some of the really powerful spatial analysis tools. And what we've done is we've released a set of what we call crime analyst tools. It's a crime analysis solution. It's a toolbar that has a lot of really powerful, really useful geoprocessing tools that are really common in crime workflows, but they're also common in lots of workflows. So if you do analysis in Arc Pro, you definitely want to be into that, even if you're not a crime analyst or what have you. So that being said, I'm going to show you some slides real quick, and I'm going to have to do a little moving around here. Sorry, we use Teams all the time, and I'm just kind of like not so good with presenting in Teams, or presenting in what do you call it? Hang on, just give me a second. Switch monitors. Stop share. I want to reshare. Screen 2. Cool. All right. Y'all seeing that?
Yes.
Cool. Thanks. So what I want to do is we have both of us, both Shelby and I, have kind of 2 separate parts of this, and each one is going to be similar in that we're going to give you some overview material. This is more like training, So we want to give you some overview material just to kind of help get you oriented. Do a quick, in my case, some quick demonstrations of the technologies that we're talking about, and then leave you on your own with us here, obviously, to help you through some hands-on learning stuff. So the hands-on learning exercises are built to support the content we're delivering to you today. All right, so let's get moving. My discussion or my presentation is on field maps. And it's an exciting new application that we have as part of our mobile application stack. And mobile workflows in all technologies, but especially in geospatial technologies, are not only about just like going out and collecting the data. there's a whole process, a whole workflow, a whole life cycle, whatever you want to call it. We call it the mobile project life cycle, but it really involves planning, um, planning for the work you're going to do, navigating, getting users to the area, getting workers to the area, to the locations, understanding what is there, understanding the context by seeing interactive maps, different base maps, etc., your features on a map. Then the actual, meat of the whole process, capturing the data. That's kind of where a lot of folks think it's all encapsulated in capturing the data, but there's a whole process we go through. And once the data has been captured or being captured, a lot of times folks are monitoring that collection or that effort, that project in real time or semi-real time, monitoring the locations of workers or monitoring the locations of emergency personnel in an emergency operation, for example. And then the last step is really coordinating the work and replanning. So it's a cycle. It kind of goes around and around. And you can see on this picture, we've got a whole bunch of, excuse me, Esri icons for our different application technologies. And this is just kind of a mess, if you ask me. We really needed to, we developed an application called Collector. It was really powerful. Then we developed another application called Explorer, or actually they kind of came out at the same time. It was really powerful, but for a different set of users. Then we developed other things like Navigator, Workforce, and Tracker. The conversations that we've been having with users is, well, this is really cool, but do I really need 5, 6 applications on my phone and have to download different maps and content for each one of these applications? So it was an expedient goal of ours to consolidate this as best we could. So we've done this. So you can see on this picture all the icons of all the apps. What we've done now is we've included, our goal is to include really all this into Field Maps. Field Maps is going to, in the long term, eliminate the need for some of our other application technology or some of our other apps. For example, we can use Field Maps to do the mapping and do the data collection. That satisfies the needs of, and redlining as well. So we do a lot of redlining on maps. People use Explorer just because they could redline and view maps. People use Collector because they could actually collect and manage data on an application, right? And then people use Tracker, a separate application, to know where people were. Well, those 3 components are all in Field Maps. So right now, like I still have all these apps on my phone, but I don't need Explorer anymore, and I definitely do not need Tracker anymore. And the long-term prospect or the long-term pattern we're expecting here is to add a lot of the workforce capabilities, kind of the work and task management tools. It's not really work order system, but kind of work tasking tools inside of Field Maps. That's going to happen later this year. And then the other thing to keep in mind is we're going to have some navigation capabilities in here too. So you can use like Navigator. You can use other navigation tools like commercial tools as well. But having Navigator is kind of the next step. Navigator, just a little tip, a little side note. I know we don't talk about Navigator that much, but Navigator has a really powerful capability in that you can take your maps offline and you can route people to things offline, but they don't have to be like addresses or businesses like we use, personally with commercial things. They could be like an asset. So it could route you to a sign or a pole or a fire hydrant or whatever it is you're looking at. It could route you to an incident or what have you. So Navigator is the next level of just like turn-by-turn directions. It's like, where's my stuff that I care about rather than where's the McDonald's and where's the nearest coffee shop. Field Maps itself is going to be, or is replacing Collector. A lot of folks have been using Collector, and I'll tell you right now, I'm sure that a couple of people got some goosebumps when I said that, like, oh crap, what am I going to have to do? It's actually, there's really nothing to do to start using your Collector maps and your Collector data sets inside of Field Maps. They're designed just, you can go from one to the other. So I'll show you some resources for that. But if you're using Collector successfully now and you're happy with it, you can continue to use it for a little while. I'm not sure what the time frame is. I've heard a few. I think it depends on the device, but I know we'll be supporting at least through the end of the year. Shelby may have some better info on that. I know we'll be supporting at least for the rest of the year. And then you won't be able to download Collector from the App Store. This is how it's going to happen. You won't be able to download it, but you'll still be able to use it for a long period of time. But there's honestly, personally, there's really not a lot of reasons that I can think of to just not make the switch. You'll find it far better, and I'll show you why. So here's some sort of benefits. It's one app. You sign in one time. You don't need to sign into Tracker, sign into Workforce, sign into Explorer. That's what a pain that is. Also, a huge thing is, since we're dealing with mobile devices, we're really reducing the amount of offline content we need to have. A lot of users in rural areas will download different content to their device for different applications, like for Explorer, they'll create something or what have you. So it just really simplifies that. And makes the user experience a lot easier too. But the really interesting thing about Field Maps is it's not just the mobile application you use on your phone. There's a whole lot more to it. Excuse me, that is a big part of it. The mobile app looks, honestly, the user experience looks just like Collector. You have the ability to view your maps and collect and update data and whatnot. But the other thing that I really wanted to highlight is this back office web app, which is, I think, where all the magic is. The back office web app allows you to create, how like with Collector, if you want to make a Collector map, or if you want to take a map offline or map out with Collector, what you do is you open up ArcGIS Online, you add your layers, you configure the pop-up, and you save the map, and that's it. You make sure there's editing enabled on the layers, and then you go to Collector and you open up, and there's your map, and you open it. So you do like the work of setting up the data, setting up the map, and all that kind of stuff inside of the web map viewer. And then if you want to take data offline, you're going to be creating like mobile map packages and other things like that. It's kind of a little disparate. With the back office web map, you can do all that in one location. So you can specify basically the editing environment. You can build feature templates. You can build even smart forms, which is a new thing. And we're going to spend a little time looking at that too. So the web app is really, really powerful. It's where we do really a lot of work. And I think you'll find that to be like the compelling reason to start using Field Maps over Collector. So a couple of things we have, we just had a release in December. We update this pretty regularly. And a couple of the things that we added in the December release, just the capability to search and work with indoor maps is one thing it's going to be big. I haven't worked with anybody specifically using indoor maps yet with Collector or with Field Maps. Excuse me, but I know that is going to be really exciting. We're trying to integrate it with indoors, or we're integrating it with indoors and with other indoor technology. You can do all the freehand sketching and marking up. You can do, you want to do there. We can also use an external GPS receiver, which a lot of folks have. So one thing to keep in mind is when you're using a commercial, the GPS receiver in your phone, your smartphone, like mine right here, it has a pulse rate, and it will give you location. For example, if you're using tracking, it'll give you your location every 1 second. It'll capture your location every second or so. If you are moving really fast, if you're moving in a vehicle as you're collecting data, for example, sorry, I completely just lost my train of thought there. Where was I going with that? I'm sorry. Oh yes, if you're using it, sorry, if you're using it, a regular GPS on your device, you're going to get like a 1 second pulse rate. So every second you get a location, a new location. If you're moving fast, like if you're driving in a vehicle, those locations can be farther apart. What we're starting to see people to do is if they need higher accuracy for tracking, higher accuracy for collecting data, they'll use an external GPS and just connect it to it through Bluetooth. So we've been seeing people use those a few times recently, rather. So some of the core capabilities, of course, I'm going to show you this stuff, but just to make sure we kind of have everything covered. Gorgeous maps, they look great. You can use symbology, arcade symbology too. So arcade, is a expression language that we use in a lot of our applications to build pop-ups and do analysis. It's got a pretty low bar of entry. People can do some really sophisticated stuff with it, but you can kind of get into Arcade and build very simple expressions. They're really handy for formatting and for pop-ups and just to combine and concatenate fields. Really makes things look pretty. So we do support more advanced symbology with Arcade built into here. Also exciting, people have been asking this for a long time, a way of grouping layers. Well, you can't really group layers in the web map viewer, but in a new web map viewer, we have a group layer capability. So you can take all your water assets and put them into a water group, and all your, land assets, whatever. You get the idea. So that's supported with the beta version of the map viewer. You can also do measurements, and nothing really new and earth shattering here, but we've got all these tools built in basically. And you can take maps offline too. I really like the markup capabilities. I use that a lot. I've taken it upon myself to use field maps just for the sort of recreationally, for the fun of it. So I've been using it to track my locations. And personally, this is kind of dorky, but I use it when I'm skiing. So I'll take an entire map of where I'm going, like Eldora or Winter Park, and I'll take it offline, and I'll turn my tracks on for the day, and I'll track all my runs everywhere I go. And I am using the markup to highlight certain areas in the trees that I want to go back and visit again. So, because I'm always trying to find good tree runs. So, and that's not mapped. So I'm making my own tree maps of a couple of ski areas. It's a dorky tangent, but I've found that how I use it, and I'm using an iPhone 6. This thing is so old and so wasted. I kind of need to have it plugged in all the time. If I'm using field maps out in the field in my pocket on a really cold day skiing, it'll run and it'll capture my location all day long. I can look at maps. I can be in airplane mode, and I can do it all day long, and my battery still has most of its life left. If I'm using just playing music, I'm going to use way more battery than I am. And just opening up like a browser, I'm going to use way more battery than field maps running in the background. It's really powerful. So what we're doing is we're using the GPS information, a lot of the device information coming natively from the device rather than in our application. So we're recording it in a much more efficient manner, and it's recording lots of attributes when you're doing tracking. So markups are there. Sorry for the tangent, but markups, we can do points, lines, areas, arrows, different colors, and your markups are unique to you. You can have a markup and have it appear on different maps. So if I have a map where I'm editing, doing forestry work, and I put markups on that, and then I open up another map that has my utilities work, I can turn on those same markups and see them in the same location. So you kind of have this really cool capability with that. Location tracking, this is replacing the tracker application. So there's a little capability of just being able to turn on location tracking. We call it my tracks. You turn on location tracking for a period of time, for like 1 hour, 4 hours, 8 hours. So you can turn it on for a shift and just forget about it. So if you've got people who are driving routes, going like up and down streets, doing things, public works or what have you, plowing, that's kind of maybe a silly example, but you can actually retain all those tracks and conflate those onto features. And so we know that the public works truck or the trash truck came down this particular street at this particular time. And we're also seeing people start to use it with Apple Watch, but you do get the ability to control how long tracking is turned on. It's controlled by the user. So you turn it on or you turn it off. Now, as I mentioned earlier, by the way, feel free to pause anytime if anybody has any questions. I'll take a swig here while you guys chime in if you have any questions. Might have to unmute yourself. I'll take that as a no for now.
Well, Shelby says she thinks we're getting a sneak peek at all your favorite tree runs.
Yeah, sorry, I can't see the chat window, but you won't get that today because that is my top secret information. but it's so fun. It is, I gotta tell you, it is really fun to use our tools for fun things. You know, like it's really fun to make a story map about your trip. It's really fun. It's much more fun to make a story about map about your trip and something you're interested than, you know, the public works project that the city or the county is doing. It's really cool and all, but it's so much more fun when you can translate it to yourself. And that's what I've been doing with field maps. Yeah, so the web map is really the powerful tool that I just love. This is where we actually do things like build and deploy the maps and control offline areas and downloadable areas. We also create feature templates and smart forms in here. So this is where a lot of the action is. Feature templates are, let's say you have a tree feature class, and you're going out to our feature layer. You're going out to put some trees down. If you commonly are inserting trees with certain characteristics, then you make a template out of that. You make a feature template of that. So maybe you've got one tree that you're commonly placing ash trees, green ash trees, or you're commonly placing Engelmann spruce trees, what have you. You can create basically a button. We call this a feature template, just like you've been accustomed to with ArcGIS. When you insert that thing, it captures all those defaults with it. So the type, the you know, the life cycle, what have you, it's going to capture all that stuff. In this example we have on the screen, which is probably more relevant, you can see we have some feature templates for like level of damage for a damage assessment. So you really just have a damage assessment object or feature, and it has an amount of damage on each one. And all you gotta do is just lay them out there. So the user then doesn't have to say damage structure and then have another field where they specify if it's superficial, minor, or major damage. They just push the button once and it captures all those attributes. You'll see that also with quick capture. Tangent, but I do want to talk about quick capture for a moment at the end of this. That's really the power of that, is you've got a simple interface with a simple button. When you click this button, it creates a feature A with these 16 attributes defaulted. When you click this feature template button, it creates feature B with these 16 attributes populated in a different way. Very, very quick way of creating features with certain combinations of attributes. The other thing that's really been taking off a lot and is currently in development is smart forms. From people using Survey 123, we've learned that smart forms are really important. Having things like conditional visibility, having things like being able to group fields and have them sort of organized in a more simple to use interface. So smart forms are how we're doing that. And smart forms are built inside of the web application, which you can see here on the right. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a few more minutes. So here we have just some sort of screenshots of smart forms and what the organization looks like. I'm going to kind of cruise through these here, and I'll show you kind of in real time. These are what the smart forms look like. And one of the things I love doing with smart form is setting up conditional visibility. So if you are doing a damage assessment and you're saying what this structure is not damaged, then it will hide all the other questions about how damaged is it. If you say it is damaged, then it'll give you questions based on that. So smart forms, honestly, it's just really good survey, a really good way of building surveys and asking questions of people. We call them smart forms. And you can also have read-only fields. So you can have editors view data, view information on their application, on their map, on their field map, but not be able to edit everything. You know, you can see the data, but they don't need to edit it. One of the other things, I'm not sure if I have a slide for this. I don't think I do have a slide for this, is that Field Maps works really, really well with related tables. I'm not going to really demonstrate it today, But the common scenario is something that needs maintenance or needs updating. You don't want to create a new feature every time you're going out to the fire hydrant to do a flow test and record that maintenance or that test results, for example. You're going to want to have the location and then have the location of the fire hydrant, maybe some attributes on the fire hydrant, and then have another table that has the maintenance history, right? Because that thing's going to be around for a long time and it's going to have lots of maintenance and lots of information. So field maps is so good at allowing you, I mean, it's built in, allow you to edit related tables. Really, really powerful capability. It's become a lot easier. And the way you do that, the way that I've been doing it, is an ArcGIS Pro. I've been publishing a layer, a feature class with a table as a feature layer with a relationship class built in, a one-to-many relationship class, for example, or one-to-one relationship class, whatever you want. And then that's honored inside of field maps. Really powerful capability. And I mentioned when I'm skiing, I'm working with minimal bandwidth in the middle of nowhere, hopefully with like no internet access. So what I'll do is I'll create offline areas, map areas. And kind of a little tangent on this. We're used to, I talked with a user who's got a really sophisticated implementation of field maps for over 250 users in her organization. And they're using it in water utility collection and whatnot. And they have kind of a core city where most people do their work. But then they have a couple of sort of isolated pockets in smaller towns where they also do work with really nothing in between. So what they've done is they've created multiple offline map areas. They've created the one that you don't need to create an envelope and store all the data for all the area that you might be in. You can have an offline map area for one part, for another part, so you can kind of minimize the amount of side loading data or data you got to have stored locally on your phone, on your device. I really like that capability. Have multiple map areas. So that's kind of a nice capability I really like. A couple of resources, and I'm actually going to put these, I started putting them in an email. I'm going to put them in the window, in the chat window in a little bit before we're done, probably during the exercise. But there are a lot of great resources I want to highlight. And let me actually point out a couple of them real quick right now before we get into like an actual demo. Let's see here, let me just get the windows up. And on the right side, I'll move this over here. There we go. Cool. So a couple of things before we get into the demo is I do want to just highlight the main field applications that I see our users using in the near term. We're going from like 7 effectively down to just a few. And one of them is quick capture. Quick capture, if you haven't worked with it, is incredibly easy to use for the user. The idea is big buttons, like you can see in these examples. I see DOTs using this in public works departments, especially in transportation. You can collect information while you're driving 60 miles an hour very quickly. You just push a button. So organizations will be using this, governments will be using this for like capturing potholes or vegetation encroachment or pavement marking issues or missing signs or whatever. You can do it all very quickly. It's really easy, capturing locations. The idea behind quick capture is you don't want people filling out attributes. You just want to push a button. The other technology that obviously a lot of you are familiar with is Survey 123, and I don't see this going anywhere in the near term. This is a very powerful application, sort of a different user base. This is more of a form-based thing. I like Survey 123 for like just capturing more basic information or updating existing data, and you can do that too. Survey 123 has one of the things that's really powerful about it is it's easy to use. You've got like a web designer to build these things, build these surveys. But you've also got a couple of analytical tools built in where you can actually just see the surveys as they're coming in. And that's kind of what you can see on this image here on the background. You can see the surveys as they're coming in, see the attributes people are filling out.
Can
Really
I
powerful.
interrupt for a second, Dave, and ask you a question?
Please.
Survey 123, you can tie it to collector right now. It requires 2 different apps, but with collector going away, will you be able to tie it to field maps or?
My understanding is yes. It has that URL schema built into it, so you can pass like features from one to the other. That's a really good question, Deb. That is, I don't know that it's in there right now, but it is going to be in there very soon.
Okay, great, because that's what we've got ramps right now that we're doing in survey 123, and they're collecting the data, but we have existing ramps that they may want to add, and so we would do that probably through collector because the data already all exists. So
yeah, for sure. That's
okay,
cool.
thanks.
I think a lot of folks are doing ramps these days. So the integration is going to be there. I'm not certain if it is. I honestly haven't messed with that part myself. But field maps is why we're here today. So there's a couple of great resources I want to highlight. And I'm going to put these in the chat window in a little bit. So don't worry about trying to write down any URLs or anything like that. But the field maps, this is our kind of our core website. It has sort of a lot of kind of marketing type stuff up top. But then as you get down to the bottom, you can really start to get into learning about how to use the different components of it and how to build it. There's a few resources up here. Look at the resources tab. This is where it is. I like these discovery paths, and we're going to be using some of these in the hands-on. But just getting started with it, how to collect data, how to use markups, how to track data, track users, and so forth. I really like this resource. I think it's a really good one. Okay, so let me kind of go back, show you 1 or 2 more slides. I think I have, oh yeah, look at that, field maps demo slide. Let me show you a few things. So just give me a second here, because I'm gonna have to join from another device here. So we'll just give me a minute to get set up. I'm on my phone, and I'm joining the meeting. Let me share my screen over here. Zoom. Let's see, share content. Screen. You guys see anything?
We're still seeing your PowerPoint.
Oh, I need to stop sharing over here.
Now we see you.
Now you see me. I'm going to stop my broadcast and restart my broadcast. Here we go.
Now we see your phone.
Awesome. Yes. So, field maps. Let's open this up. What? That wasn't field maps. That was the App Store. So I'm using the Field Maps app on my device. I know there's a little bit of a lag here, but I'm using the Field Map app on my device, and I have created a really simple application. And I created it off of data that I had. This was so fun. So I downloaded the public trees data from the City of Boulder's website, and I use it in demos quite a bit, mobile demos. But I was able to take that data and bring it in and publish it basically as a feature layer and create this simple trees field maps map. It was very simple. So let me go ahead and just do some stuff like get my current location. That's where I am right now. This is actually my current location. At the top, it tells you what your GPS accuracy is. Obviously, I can go through here and hit that little button and look at all the different layers on my map and turn layers on or turn layers off from there. I can also go to this little ... the ellipses, and change my base map. I think a lot of times if you're doing like trees, you probably want to have an imagery base map. So I can go ahead and just choose that if I wanted to do choose that. I'm gonna go back and choose my default base map just because it's easier to see in this little demo. Also on here, we can do things like search for features. So I could search for an address or search for an asset ID, something along those lines. So let's go ahead and look at kind of what just the user experience looks like. So I just plop the dot on the map and I can see that I've got some trees. I can see the attributes of these trees, facility ID, the species, and all that kind of stuff. So I've got a lot of attributes in here. I probably, might want to simplify this a little bit, because not everybody knows all these things, but all those attributes. But I can also just quickly place a tree or place a feature. So I can just hit the plus button, and just like with collector, I can use my current location, or I can move it around a little bit, like place it right there. And I can choose the type of tree. This is a feature template. So I've created 3 feature templates. There's like 70 trees that are in their database, but I just created 3 for this demo. One of them is an aspen, one of them was a pine, and one of them was a spruce, I think. So what I did in my feature template setup is I pre-populated some fields. So I populated the full name for aspen. It's Populus subspecies, so Populus tremuloides. So I just put Populus SPP in there. And then the genus for that is going to be Populus. So every time I'm creating an aspen, I'm always going to have these 2 things filled out. And then I also have a couple of other fields in here that I can just free type in if I want, or I can talk to text, which a lot of folks are doing. Pick a project. These are all of the different Boulder projects, like 2019 planning project. And then I can submit that feature, and it's now going to my database. It's really simple. If you've used Collector, you'd be like, well, Dave, this looks pretty much exactly like Collector. And that's the idea, is to make it so that the user experience is about the same. So I can go on here and look at some of my other maps that I've got. Any one of these maps, this one right here, this Boulder tree map, has some offline areas. So looks like this map is 17 megabytes, the whole size of it. So I can zoom into an area right here and collect data, or work with the offline data from here as well too. But in the city of Boulder and where I'm sitting right now, I'd probably be using real data, using real-time data, because I'm actually signed in, or I'm actually have service where I am. But I know a lot of folks are collecting data out in the middle of nowhere, in rural areas. Let me quickly give you a little overview of. I want to make sure we have plenty of time left over for you guys to do some work. I wanted to just briefly show you the app, but I'm going to stop broadcasting that, and I really want to show you now the actual web-based application behind the scenes. So I'm going to go share again. Any questions? So, I guess I see some stuff in the chat window. Oh, that's all old stuff. Okay, sorry. I'm not monitoring the chat window, just so you know. Anybody has a question, just feel free to speak up. So let's share screen 1 now. So when I'm in ArcGIS Online. Let me just move this over here. I don't need to see my face. I'm in ArcGIS Online right now. Let me just kind of go to my. I'm just in ArcGIS Online right now, and this is actually a. Let me show a different one. I want to show you the Boulder trees, because this is really going to be more relevant. Sorry, just give me a second to sign in with a different one. Sorry, I thought I was already signed in.
Rich just posted in the chat. Hi, Dave. Hope you also cover the tracking portion of field maps.
Oh, will do, actually. Let me,
and then somebody else said, when can we expect to see a Windows version?
I don't know about the Windows version. I know that's a really, really valid concern. I will find out during the exercise. No, let me just make a note. I'll find that out, and I'll get you some info on that. So for tracks, let me go back and stop sharing here, and I'm going to share my screen, my device again, hopefully. Show you the way tracks work. I'm on Zoom. Okay, share my screen here.
Kat also asked if you could cover how to establish required fields.
Yes, totally, just about to do that.
And then Rich sent you a message about beer.
Oh, sweet. I like that one. Oh yeah, I love the Yingling, sweet, representing. Thanks, Rich. All right, so you guys are seeing my desk or my monitor now. I think, hopefully. Yeah, there we go. Let's get field maps up again. There we go. So when you're using field maps, when you're turning on, let me go cancel that. There we go. When you're in field maps application, before you do anything, you see, so I haven't done anything. I've just signed in. I haven't selected a map or anything yet. It shows you the current map on top. That's the one you have open, or the one you had open the most recently. And then any things you have on your device, like tracks. And tracks are stored on your device until you not track. Stuff that's on your device, like tracks that you can turn on and turn off, and also maps that you've downloaded to your device, like this Winter Park and this Boulder Trees web map. There's all the other maps that I have in my organization are available in here too that I can access. So for tracking, what you do is you turn it on. All I did was turn it on, and these are the options: 4 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, or until switched off. So it's controlled by the user. One of the enhancements I think that's coming, I saw recently, was an ability for tracking to be automatically turned on if you wanted it for a period of time. So you could, person open the map, tracking would automatically turn on. Tracking is generally handled by the user. And this, or is handled by the user. Tracks actually, so fun. Go back into ArcGIS Online as a tracks layer, or I think it's called a tracks layer. Isn't that correct, Shelby? Tracks layer. I think it's just called a tracks layer. And you can create views out of that layer, like the Dave Vaillancourt tracks, or the Shelby Hines tracks, or the Rich Chamberlain tracks, whatever it may be. And then those tracks are stored inside of basically ArcGIS Online for a period of time. I think the default is like 30 days. So it's got all of your tracks in there for about 30 days. And you can work with those tracks inside the track viewer and look at the speed and the accuracy of those tracks. And you can export those tracks and do fun things with them in 3D, or treat them like a feature layer, any other kind of feature layer. So did that help to, Rich, did that answer kind of your basic question about how to turn them on? I'll show you the web scenario in a minute. We good?
Yeah, it did, Dave. Can you explain like what version of Portal or AGO you can use the tracks in? Because I've tried this and I just can't. I don't know. Probably not because ACOM is not current with our stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, so the tracking capabilities are really new. That's a really good question. For one, any version of ArcGIS Online is the only version of ArcGIS Online is the new version. So if you're using ArcGIS Online, this stuff works, and I'm using ArcGIS Online for this. This stuff will just work right away. If you're using ArcGIS Enterprise and you have Portal, then you need to make sure you have the Field Maps app installed. Keep in mind, when we release stuff for online, it takes another 4-6 months to get it into Portal. So what I'm showing you today, is basically like if you were to have downloaded and be running the most current version of ArcGIS Enterprise Portal. I think Field Maps goes back to 10.6.1. You can use it on data, and you can use the application. The application came out at 10.7.1, I believe, in Portal. But I believe you can use it on data that's, so if you've got enterprise data, this is really going to be confusing. But if you've got enterprise data, if you've got ArcGIS Enterprise and you're at 10.6, you've got data that's in a 10.6 geodatabase, you can be using that in field maps, but you need to be using the field maps installed on ArcGIS Online to hook into your older, your older version of data. That probably didn't help anything right there, but we can talk about it offline, Rich, if you've got some snags.
Also, Dave,
Yeah,
can I
please.
just mention too as well that ArcGIS Tracker is a premium capability, so that may be why you don't see it, Rich,
Mhm.
in your org or your app, because it is an additional cost at this point to license that tracker capability.
Yeah, that could be it, right? That's exactly could be it. Speaking of tracker, inside of ArcGIS Online is this little track viewer application. So if you've got tracking turned on and all that kind of stuff, you can see the track views in your org. So let's just look. These are track views. So this organization that I'm in right now is used by hundreds of my teammates. We've created a track view just for people in the Denver region, Denver office here. So we'll open this up. Here we go. So here we have all of my teammates. I'll just turn me on here. And on the left-hand side, we can see our users, and then we can also look at a time span. So by default, it's just like the last 8 hours. But let's say we want to make it from like March 1st to March 25th. You hit the apply button. Since I haven't turned tracking on in the last few hours or few days or last 8 hours, you're not going to see anything. But now we can start to see stuff like my other tracks over here. So I've changed my filter expression to show a longer period of time. And then we can also set the accuracy. So some of these points are going to have higher accuracy than others, as you notice. One of the attributes that's captured I didn't show you, but is the horizontal accuracy. So I could filter this down and just show me stuff that's in like 42 feet or more accurate. So it's going to filter out the points that are just kind of like offshoots. And you can also render by speed. For example, say, let me go into this area. Let me change the base map a little. I'm totally getting off topic, sorry, but this is fun, hopefully. So this looks like a ski area, and this is a ski area. And what we can do is we can do stuff like show me just when the person was going less than 5 miles an hour. We'll hit apply, and then you'll see all the spots where the user was going less than 5 miles an hour highlighted. So these are the blue, the more rich, the less opaque, or the more opaque colors are 5 miles an hour or less. So I can make this like 1 mile an hour or less. And you can see basically the places where I might have stopped, or I could just say 0 miles an hour. Where was I stopped on this particular run? I stopped here, I stopped there, and I stopped over there. I was probably out of breath because this is, as you can see, is all in the trees. So you can really mess with this to have to filter out, all your speeds, filter out from different, you get the idea. And then what I like to do is take this stuff and export it as like a feature layer and just work with it there, because it's kind of ephemeral. I think stored for 30 days or so by default. And then it also shows you your last known location for when I turned off tracking. So this is when I turned it off, when I got to the car in the parking lot of the Challenger lot there at Winter Park. So that's kind of the track viewer piece, which I didn't intend to cover, but it's really useful, really powerful capability. And the other thing you can do is you can also specify what kind of activity the person's doing. So this is my house, and this is a trip up Boulder Canyon, and this is Eldora. So this is some skiing in Eldora. We could go through and say, just show me the driving activities. And it's gonna basically only find stuff when you're going a certain speed. Apparently I was skiing kind of fast enough in some places to think I was driving. But you could specify like if you're driving or walking, or just see the stationary points. Stationary points is probably the most useful, because then you can see actually the places where you might have stopped. Right, so that's the track viewer. Let's go back into field maps. And I'm going to do this really quick because I'm cutting into your own personal work time here. This is when I open up field maps, you hit it from from right here. Oops, wrong one. Let me do the other one over here. Hit it from field maps from right here. The web application is right here, field maps. And when you open up field maps, you're presented with all the maps that you have. And here's the interesting thing is you can actually select a map. Like if you've got a lot of maps that you don't want people to hide or don't want people to see inside of field maps, because maybe they're not collecting the data. Maybe it's an editable map, but they're not going to be collecting data. You can actually hide it so they don't see that map when they don't have to scroll through a bunch of maps when they're getting started. But let's look at my field maps. And I see a handful of maps. One of the ones I created was this trees field map. That's the one I was just using. So let me show you kind of what it looks like behind the scenes. So I can select it. I can do things like change the thumbnail, edit some basic information here. But the thing I want to show you is really the content and the offline capability. So if I click on the content tab, it shows me my editable layers and my base map layers. So I've got canvas and the reference base map, and I've got my boulder trees layer. If I select my layer, I can create, this is where I can create templates. So I've got a template for an ash tree, an aspen tree, and a pine tree. And when I create an aspen tree, I can go to the right-hand side and look at the properties of that and see what default values I've picked. So I've already told it to choose populace, subspecies, and genus as, populace is the genus. So I've already told it to fill out the genus and the full name fields for me. But I could also go in and type in any other stuff I want to in any of these fields. So when I click aspen, it's going to do that. When I go to ash, it's going to create a fraxis. It's going to create a green ash. Forgot to change the species, but there we go. We'll just go like that. And with pine, same thing with pine. I can have a different combination of each one of these. For each one of these, I can also create a form. And this is really exciting. You get this form builder application, very much like the Survey 123 experience when you're using the windows and dragging the stuff around on the window. I can take the entire pop-up and turn it into a form, or I can manually build my own form. That's what I did. I grabbed a couple of fields and I just dragged them over here. I can also group fields. So I can group stuff about like maybe the date, the time, the inspector. And maybe I could group fields about the specific asset, the specific tree. So really, really powerful. So I could go ahead, for example, and bring other things into this particular group. So with the field maps, you can create templates of different types of features, and each one of those templates can have different default values when you go to place them. And you can change this at any point in time. Really powerful. Form builder, I love it. The other capability I really like is the offline capabilities. So with offline creating, like with Collector, a lot of times you're creating a tile package in Pro and uploading it to ArcGIS online and then downloading it, sideloading it onto your map, right? It's kind of the method we've been using for a while to get offline data. It's a little hokey. I mean, it works, but it means you got to have Pro and you got to really kind of know how to use Pro, which is a whole other barrier for entry. But what we can do here is we can specify the content in the areas we want to create offline areas for. So I can choose to manage an area right here, and I'll get my map. And then I'll just get to start drawing areas. So maybe I have, zoom out a little bit, maybe I have an area up here that I want to have offline. So I can draw a box over here and say this is going to be one of my offline map areas. And when I'm going to create it, I can specify the level of detail I'm going to want. So if I'm going to want to get really down, if I'm going to be creating stuff in the field, like I'm probably going to want to have this level. So it's how many tiles are we building for it? And then you can use this to actually create those tiles. And then as soon as someone opens the map, they can download them. So this whole process of like building offline data and sharing offline data is streamlined significantly. Okay, there's a little bit on field maps, and I apologize. I went way too long on my demonstration, like normal. I want to give you guys some time to work on some stuff and get started with this. Do you guys have any questions before we transition into that?
It doesn't look like there's anything else in the chat.
Cool. So here's a few. I'm going to paste this. Let me actually paste this in the window first, so you all can start. I'm going to put a whole bunch of text. See if it'll fit. All this will fit in here. I'm going to put a whole mess of text in here. And let's see how this looks. Did it all come in? Yeah, it all came in. Sweet. So this is this content here that I just pasted is going to be a whole bunch of really useful resources for you. I want to kind of highlight a couple of these real quick. One of the what I'd like you to do today is, if you want, to get started with some of the field maps technology, get started using it. And there are a few resources I wanted to share. Let me grab, here we go. There is one, Learn ArcGIS. I'm sure you all have heard about it by now. I know I talk about it almost all the time. It's a great tool. LearnArcGIS.com. It's a great site where if you're interested in learning about keeping on top of some new technology or learning how to do something, that's the place. The exercises are all, most of them are training based, and they're free, powerful. That's how I learned, honestly, it's how I learned a lot of what I know about Esri Tech is through the Learn ArcGIS site. So what we have is we have these paths, and I put this one path in here. It's called Try ArcGIS Field Maps. This, you can start anywhere along the line, but I just did want you to know that we've got these little modules you can go through to get to know field maps, and each one of these is going to have steps on how to use it. You know, you can kind of start wherever you want. I know that some of the folks on this call have used it before, and I know that some of the folks on this call have never even used Collector before. So this would be a good place to start. If you haven't used it, if you have done some work, then we can actually start collecting data. So I've got a couple of other exercises in here on building out those field map applications. And the last thing I want to show you is not one that you would have thought of, but it's got some really cool information. This was created by a user, Charlotte Smith. This is for Collector, and I'll put it in the link. This is actually technically for Collector, but it covers a lot of steps that a lot of folks don't know about that could be your secret weapon in building layers. So like, we build stuff in Pro. We build most of our layers on ArcGIS Pro and publish them to online. The thing I love about this is it goes through the process of actually using ArcGIS Online to create a brand new layer. And I know a lot of folks haven't done this. It's amazing. So I'll put this in here too. So if you just want to kind of go through the process of like learning how to build a layer from scratch, this one is also in here. So it says it's for Collector, but the entire workflow is the same for creating the data and making the fields. You can do a lot of really cool things on ArcGIS Online. So those are my, yes, Mary, good to hear from you. Your online aerial photos can be included in offline base maps for sure. So the other thing is, when you look at the stuff I put in here, where I want you to start is on the Try ArcGIS bit. So looks like I need to paste something else in here. So I can get all the, oh yeah, I didn't get a whole lot of stuff. Sorry. I'm going to repaste that entire thing. There we go. So at the bottom, you'll see the learning paths. No, I can't fit it all in here. It's too much text. I've got to do it separate. Dang it. Freaking Zoom. There we go. These are the three learning objectives or things, independent learning we can get started on. There's the get started with field activities, like just capturing data. There's also the actually collect data. There's the second link. These are both Learn ArcGIS resources. And then the third one, if you're interested in setting something up from scratch purely in ArcGIS Online, that'd be a great topic. How are we doing on time, Deb? Did I just kill all of our time? Shelby's starting at a certain time. We want to make sure we have break in between. How are we doing on time?
Dave, I think you have till 10:15, so you've got 15 more minutes.
Okay, so you guys have 15 minutes. So thanks, Shelby. So I'm gonna sit here. You all please get started with those if you like. You do need to have a ArcGIS Online. I think Deb sent out some information that you need to have a creator user or a field maps user to do some of this stuff. So I'm just gonna mute my phone and stop sharing my screen. And I'll be sitting right here looking for questions to come in. And I'm not sure if I can talk individually to you all or if I need to talk to the whole group. So if you have questions, type them up or speak up, and Shelby and I will be right here to answer them. Is that okay? Maybe everybody left already. All right, I'll stop sharing and I'll mute.
Dave, can you see our question?
Yes, we're getting a code 1004. Is this on your, so is this a map? Can you share your screen?
Well, it's on my phone, so I don't know if I
Oh,
can.
okay, got it. Okay, got it.
But you can find the map. It's open to the public.
Okay. Let me see, and let me just look up that error message and see if that means anything specific. Is that Rachel, is that coming from ArcGIS server, ArcGIS Enterprise?
ArcGIS server map service.
Okay. Let me look in our support, our internal support stuff. Do you have a collector map you can try and open?
Yeah, and it shows. It allows me to add data, but it looks like I can add data, but I don't really see the. Oh, okay, the data's showing up in that.
So I'm wondering if there's are there no editable layers in the, well, that shouldn't matter. I don't think there needs to be editable layers.
Yeah, because it's a read-only map. So
Mhm.
the one. Oh, and now it works. Okay.
Cool, glad I could help fix it.
Maybe.
So what does it do? What is it doing now?
I mean, and now it's acting normal like it is on Explorer. Everything shows up and.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good. Maybe we just have internet issues down here.
So you're able to open up you're able to open it up now. Okay, cool. Just took a while. I'm not sure. I did notice that code is specific to some things related to ArcGIS server. I haven't run into that prior, but looks like you got past it.
Okay.
So are you able to redline on that application too?
What do you mean?
Are you able to do markups and redline on that?
Oh, that's a good question. Markup. Yeah.
Cool.
Looks like it.
Cool. You just migrated to field maps.
Thanks.
Is anybody else giving it a try? Giving anything a try, having luck?
Yeah, Dave, this is Mary Lackner. I'm just logged into ArcGIS online and looking at the maps I have in there and kind of the functionality on that. The interface is pretty cool.
Good, good, cool. Have you been using Collector much, Mary?
We use Quick Capture.
Oh, how are you using that?
Very simply, just if you're going out for a specific, like we were doing some property corners, just getting the high accuracy GPS. We're using both the Bad Elf and the R1 over a location, picking up the point. Since we know what that point is, we're just capturing it that way.
Cool.
And a little bit on some line work.
What kind of accuracy are you getting with the Bad Elf and the R1?
Well, the Bad Elf, we had to do some testing and we actually sent it back to the company because it was showing 32 feet accurate. I'm like, I know you're supposed to get better. So we sent it back and they're fixing it. And then the R1, we're around 2 feet.
Cool.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. 2 feet. And it
It's
probably gives you.
sub-meter, yeah.
Nice.
But what you were saying in your presentation is Quick Capture is not going away with field maps.
It's not going away with field maps. Yeah. Well, and I probably should choose my words a little more carefully, but workforce, the capabilities of workforce will be integrated. The capabilities of Explorer are integrated. Capabilities of Collector are integrated, but Quick Capture is its own user type of user base. You know, it's same with Survey 123. I think these 3 applications are unique and will continue to be supported for the long term.
That's good news. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I need to look up on Windows. I know someone asked about Windows. Some comments on Windows. Can't recall who asked about Windows, but someone did ask about Windows. Here's a little rundown on our support. This is from the product manager. Because I asked him this question a couple weeks ago. We're supporting Collector on iOS and Android at least through the end of 2021. At this time, we have not set an exact date for Windows to retire Collector and Explorer because we still haven't finished developing it on the Windows platform. So Collector on Windows is probably going to be supported longer because we haven't released a version for Windows yet for field maps. We're actively developing it on the Windows 10 platform. Don't know when that's actually going to be released. Okay, I'm just reading through a lot of words. Yep. So it looks like we're actively developing it right now. It's just not released yet. I don't know what the time frame is, but we're not going to leave Windows users hanging in a lurch. We're going to keep Collector so that there's a period of overlap so that you're not stuck moving from one to the other, if that helps. Mary, I was just reading through your question earlier about aerial photos. So the way you do that is you just put you have in your map, you put the air photos in the map, or the image service. God, I'm confusing everybody now. You put the layer in your web map, and then you can create the offline content from that. Doesn't really matter what's in.
Okay, because we were trying to do that with the previous products and noticed that the images came across really pixely. So I guess we're going to have to go for that really.
Yeah,
Great.
you're gonna want to go down to that like not the room level, but that zoom scale. I think they call like house or something like that. There's like neighborhood, block, house, room.
Right.
And that's, I did the same thing actually. That I don't know if you noticed, but that tree, one of the trees web maps I created, I only had a couple scales, and it just looked really pixelated, really crappy. But the stuff that I did at Winter Park off the aerial imagery is I went all the way down to the room level, or to the building level, and I can see individual trees when I'm out there. So it's just a matter of selecting the right scale range.
Okay. Yeah, that's something we're gonna need to do because we still have a lot of areas that have no connectivity.
Yep, I get it. Thank goodness. So just a time check. It's 10:20. Shelby's going to start her session on the analysis toolbar, crime analysis toolbar, at 10:30. So if you want to take a few minutes, go fill up your coffee cup, whatever you need to do. Now might be a good time. Definitely want to encourage you to get up and walk around so that you have the attention span for this next awesome presentation.
For those of you that are still around, I just kind of have an informal question for you. We're looking at options for our summer meeting, and you guys will be getting a survey if you're on the GISCO listserv, or we may post it to our website. But if we were going to have, or when we have our summer meeting, would you be interested in attending either an in-person meeting that's socially distanced and outside, an in-person meeting socially distanced and inside, or a virtual meeting? So what would be your preference of those three choices?
Depends when I get vaccinated.
True.
Yeah, we're still looking at June, right?
We could be flexible. We could do the end of July or early August, possibly. It would just depend. We want to probably avoid the July 4th weekend as well as the weekend before and after the ESRI UC. Even though it's going to be virtual, people are just busy, so. Our original date was the 23rd to the 25th of June. But our group reservation in Leadville got canceled by the federal government. Thank you. How are they doing with vaccinations up around your area, Mary?
Some weeks we get quite a few. We got 1,600 this week, but last week they didn't get anything other than second doses. So, and that's just the Pitkin County distribution. I know like Valley View Hospital in Glenwood Springs is getting quite a bit more, but it comes and goes. Each week is very different.
Yeah, well, they just opened the mass vaccination site at Dick's Sporting Goods here in Denver. And I don't know how many doses it's been getting, but I know that Thornton has, our fire department has a vaccination site and they've been getting enough doses that they've been doing. I think they're at 65 and up now, as well as last week, any employees that weren't considered, in the first initial group of essential employees got their first dose last week if they wanted to.
That's good. Yeah, they just, some county employees and city essentials started this week getting those doses, and they're moved on to 50 plus. We're also finding that a lot of our visitors who are in the 60 and over category are registering and getting vaccinations, which is a mixed bag.
Yeah, I actually got vaccinated in Arizona, but Ducey down there said he's doing all the snowbirds and everybody, and we just bought a house down there. So, we got our vaccines down there. So both my husband and I got both of our doses. We've got our second dose about 2 weeks ago.
Good.
But
Yeah,
a lot of
the
the states
standby list for this afternoon. We'll see if I get there or not. Otherwise, a week or two away.
Yeah, well, a lot of the states are doing that, though. Arizona, as of yesterday, is doing anybody 16 and up. Texas is doing 16 and up starting next week, I think. And I think Mississippi is the other state I heard that was doing 16 and up.
Nice.
Yeah, the sooner we get people vaccinated, the sooner hopefully our lives go back to normal, or the new normal.
Yeah, I know. It'll be nice.
Yeah, we know you're not getting vaccinated, Pete. So I'm coming back up your way this summer, Mary. I've got a camping trip planned back up to Redstone.
Very nice. You're well ahead on your planning. We can always do an outdoor meeting in Redstone.
We could. That was a fun meeting.
Yes. And we can do our testing of offline field maps.
Absolutely. Everything up there is offline.
Yes.
Deb, you guys just may have figured out where we should maybe go. It's central. It's low, so we can still do it in June if we wanted. You guys had good success. That was one meeting I didn't make. So I was bummed about, but it went well. We'll learn from that experience there at that campground. That was a private place, right?
No, it's a Forest Service campground. We actually had our meeting at the Redstone Inn,
Yep.
but during the week, I'm sure there's probably still sites available at the campground. We booked, we're going the first week in August, and we booked Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we just did that a couple of weeks ago. So
But it's not a group campground.
no, it's not a group campground. When we went the last time, we had 4 sites that were kind of together. And then Mary was down closer to the river, and a couple of other people were scattered. Laura and the students did just a remote site. And but nice facilities at that campground for Forest Service campground. It's got solar showers and running water and but we could do the Redstone Inn again too, I bet.
Yeah. Yeah, they're probably looking for additional business. Put it that way.
Well, and their big meeting room that we used was plenty big enough to socially distance.
Yeah, that was a nice venue. I know you guys don't repeat venues too much. Is there anything, I'm thinking more in the Glenwood, Eagle to Rifle area that perhaps would just also work?
Well, we've done Rifle. We've done Glenwood a couple of different times. Rob hosted a couple of different times at the county.
Meeker.
Yeah, we did Meeker. We're open to suggestions if anybody has a suggestion, or if anybody knows somebody that has, a nice big property where we could pitch some tents and hang out.
Nick, you and I were looking at areas along the Colorado or Route 131 or along the Colorado River road there that goes from, like, I don't know if that's the Beck or Silt, I can't remember which town.
Dotsero to Kremling is what you're talking about, Rich. Yeah, Rich and I were discussing some different areas around the Eagle County kind of area, just spots I know.
Yeah, the problem is it really needs to have some kind of facilities and so forth, because we can't offer to take a group in someplace where we might, damage something.
Yeah. My idea was Rancho Del Rio, if anyone knows that, or maybe the State Bridge facility.
Yeah, I think as a group, we're pretty much open. Most everybody's saying they would prefer to be outside, and I think we all kind of agree with that. We'd like to do something outside, especially in the summer. So Mary's suggestion of Redstone would be good though, because we could do something outside and still have the availability if we wanted to have it catered from the Redstone Inn and have meals there. They have a huge lawn area. They have, plenty of space outside.
That's definitely appealing. Just it gives you the help, the the inn gets business out of it. We have a choice to be inside or outside on the lawn. Food is kind of taken care of. There's a lot of upswing to that. It's also just a, you know, beautiful area, but it's also nice and central too, which is important for folks, you know.
Yeah, and we can make a visit to Slow Groovin' and sit on the porch and have some beer and barbecue. And
Do you remember a lot of people complained due to lack of connectivity?
yes, but we're better prepared now. We would tell people ahead of time, don't expect to stream your videos.
Yeah, we had good experience at Lake City camping, so now
Yeah.
people should be used to that.
Yeah, and that wasn't completely disconnected. So if we go into it with that same philosophy, I think it's good. But we have the advantage of having the inn and having food or, you know, Slow Grooving or other places where we can get catering versus having to bring everything like we did in Lake City. Because logistically, that was more challenging for the organizing group.
Yeah, that was a lot of work on you guys, but it was an amazing meeting. It was terrific.
Well, thank you.
It was worth the drive twice.
Yeah, not everybody knows that story, Rich.
I know. I'll leave it at that, but I just know it takes a lot to pull off the disconnected meetings and, you know, the camping. You think it'd be simpler, but in fact, it's probably more planning, you know, to pull off a summer meeting when you're out there, you know, at a campground, because you got to furnish your own food. And I kind of like the idea of Redstone, just for that reason. You know, primarily it's getting help with food, you know, and it just nails things down a little bit easier, because we're going to need to be flexible. Whatever we figure out, we're going to have to allow for flexibility due to changing, you know, conditions and whatnot, you know, with health and safety and whatnot. So to have options at a location is really kind of nice.
Yeah. Well, we should probably take this offline and we'll do it by email or via the survey, because I think Shelby needs to get started. So
Thanks, Deb. Shall I take it away then?
off and running.
All right. Great. Well, thank you guys so much for sticking around. I'm excited to present on the ArcGIS crime analysis solution. And I'm going to assume that you can see my screen. So please let me know if you can't.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks, Deb. All right. So the crime analysis solution is part of the ArcGIS solution stack. The solution is a tool designed for crime analysts, and it is an interface that lives in ArcGIS Pro. As Dave had mentioned, it has a lot of utility for the non-crime analysts. So again, I'm really happy you guys all stuck around. I'm not sure if there are crime analysts on the line. It'll be great if there are. So the solution is, it enables you to map data, perform spatial analysis, and use that data and those results to generate map products. You know, with the goal being to improve productivity, to build efficiency among a police department, and to support law enforcement agencies more broadly with data-driven strategies, right? Ultimately to reduce crime and improve police operations. Like I mentioned, the crime analysis solution is part of the ArcGIS solution stack. So you guys have access to it free of charge with a subscription to ArcGIS Online. You can access it through the Solutions app, which I am going to show in a few minutes. You can also like kind of manually download it from the Solutions site online, and I'll point that out as well. But the solutions, like I said, are free of charge if you're, if you have a subscription to ArcGIS. They are also fully supported by tech support, which is really nice. And then I also want to mention, please do consider Dave and myself a resource, moving forward. And with this tool, with field maps, with really anything ArcGIS, don't hesitate to reach out. We can help you oftentimes kind of, get over the initial hump and get you started with something like this. Okay, so over the next hour, I'm going to start with I just have a handful of slides to provide an overview of this solution. Then I'm going to open up the actual Pro project that you get when you download when you deploy or download the solution, and kind of talk through some of the tools within that project. I also have some demo data from a customer, our friends over at City of Rio Rancho in New Mexico. So it'll be good. It was great working with that data and running that through some of the tools. So you'll be able to look at a different data set than just that demo data set. And then I'll share some resources and just kind of mention some other law enforcement solutions that are related to the crime analysis solution. And then finally, I will provide a choice of exercises, and those are also learn lessons, similar to how Dave structured his hands-on piece. And I'll kind of talk through each of those options to help you decide kind of where to dive in and get started. Okay, so Esri GIS Tech supports the many missions of law enforcement and police, and supports police agencies around the world, including these that you see on this slide. GIS supports a variety of missions, right, to share information and communicate ideas and perform analysis and solve complex problems. So you could see some of those trends there and some of those missions on the bottom of the slide. I want to mention too, I forgot to mention that of all the ArcGIS solutions out there, the crime analysis solution is the most downloaded solution. So hang tight and you'll see some of its value. Before we kind of dive into that particular solution, this is not going to be unfamiliar to anybody, but location data is important to every law enforcement decision. So starting from the top there, individuals and locations. So think about all the people that police contact and the places they respond to every day, and they all have locations, right? Data. So all of the data that police have access to in a records management system or in a CAD system, those all have locations as well. And then sensors. So more and more, police departments are using devices and systems that collect location data. And so, ArcGIS can help you kind of break down the silos in these different systems and enable you to bring them together into one visualization or one platform for analysis. And then kind of looking at the ArcGIS system as a whole and how crime analysis fits into it. Let's start on the bottom left of this slide. So all the various data sets coming from the various data sources, right, can be published or registered into your portal. And when I say portal, I'm talking either ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise Portal. And that becomes the place that you're able to kind of mash up all these different data sources. On the bottom right, you can see the crime analysts using Pro connecting to that data. Of course, within that portal, there is, authorization and authentication, enabling security, enabling people, the right people to have access to the right information, et cetera. And then along the top, you can see the idea is that you're able to provide a focused app or a focused tool, that meets the need of the end user, whether it's, people in first responders or police officers, maybe it's executives, maybe it's members of the public. And so down the right of this slide, of course, we're talking about ArcGIS Pro today and tools within Pro. And then as you guys all know, I'm sure, ArcGIS Pro is really designed to support the WebGIS pattern. So, with WebGIS, you can, and that's really what we're talking about with the portal. So you can integrate data from various sources. You can, enable self-service mapping, and you have access to this rich set of app templates. You have access to the Living Atlas. You can collaborate with other entities and more. The idea being that you're leveraging the complete system to meet the needs across the department and across the organization. And just to sort of further that notion is, I threw this slide in, it has some interesting animations, but the one system, right? ArcGIS can support the many missions and many workflows of a police department or a law enforcement agency. So in the bulletins and briefings, that might be crime data, it might be the results of analysis, might be related to site security or traffic safety. The real-time crime center might be more targeted, apps more targeted for investigations and pulling together data into a centralized location, right? Executive dashboards can display the KPIs that execs are interested in seeing and help, drive data-driven decision-making. Event management, we have another ArcGIS solution called Special Events. I believe it's called Special Events for planning an event in advance and also supporting the day of. And that might be a planned event like a marathon, or it might be an unplanned event like a protest. ArcGIS Pro, of course, you notice the lines kind of are going out from that Pro project, being that Pro is foundational to support these other capabilities. And it's in Pro that you're really managing your data and doing the heavy analysis. And that's where the crime analysis solution lives. And then on the bottom right are community hubs. So we have a tool called ArcGIS Hub that enables you to be transparent with your data and to organize content around a theme and build a website to expose maps and apps and other information that you want to share with the public. Okay, so on to the crime analysis solution a little bit more deeply. So the solution brings together specialized tools, like I said, for mapping data, performing analysis, and making it easier, right, and quicker to generate crime analysis and the associated information products to share that you can share with the appropriate audiences. So on this slide, we can see a few boxes here. The first is manage data. So there are tools for importing records, and I'm going to show you that one. There are tools for enhancing attributes. One really neat tool kind of pulls apart a date and time field into its component parts, and I'll show you an example of that. You can also use these tools to enrich your data with maybe demographic attributes from the Living Atlas. And then perform analysis. So the first kind of set of tools under tactical and strategic analysis are around understanding trends in data, changes over time, density and hotspot analysis, the 80-20 analysis you might be familiar with. And if there are crime analysts on the line, they could probably explain this a lot better than I can, but the 80-20 looks at, clusters where majority of incidents happen in the same location. So like 80% of incidents could, happen in 20% of locations. So kind of surfacing those places. Into the investigative analysis, there are tools for doing crime series linking that are quite interesting to look at things like motor vehicle theft linked to their recovery sites. There are also tools for pulling cell records from network providers and associating them with the location of cell sites, right? And then linking calls to support investigations of crimes. The repeat and near repeat analysis is all about identifying statistically significant patterns and offenses. And this is based on an established, like an industry established calculation. And then on the right is share information products. So you can create charts and link charts, reports and layouts right within Pro. And then of course, publish to your portal, to ArcGIS Online or your ArcGIS Enterprise portal, and leverage the capabilities there. Okay, so what's new with this latest solution? So the Pro solution for Pro 2.7, the crime analysis solution for 2.7, now includes link analysis, which is really neat. It enables you to visualize relationships between people, events, places, and to see, and so you can see in a link chart sort of these clusters or these hierarchies of relationships. And the chart is dynamic with the map, so that you can click on sort of a connector in the chart and see its location on the map. It's fascinating for crime analysis. Also, these capabilities were used for COVID contact tracing. So, so interesting stuff. And then you can now add a graphics layer in ArcGIS Pro, which is essentially like inserting a text box or an arrow line or an image, just as an additional aid to help people understand what they're looking at. You can build reports. So this is leveraging the report capability in Pro, which is great that it's there. So that you can build tabular reports at the record level. So you can really pull out the information you need. And this is all great stuff to know for any GIS analyst using ArcGIS Pro. Of course, with those reports, you can export to PDF and share around. Also now the crime analysis and safety toolbox is now installed natively with ArcGIS Pro. So there are custom tools, they're actually scripts that were written to support the crime analysis solution. And now they show up as a toolbox in Pro 2.7, even if you don't have the crime analysis toolbar. So they're part of the core product now. And finally, it is easier to schedule geoprocessing tools than it has been before, right in ArcGIS Pro. So for example, I mentioned that data import tool that's part of the crime analysis toolbar, and you can automate, maybe it's a pull from an RMS system, right? So that on a daily basis, you can automate basically geocoding and appending that data to your crime data or your maybe it's your CAD calls or something like that. You could also schedule things like data cleanup or analysis, like running an analysis tool. Okay, so this is the last slide I have, and this is just sort of a preview of what's to come with the hands-on exercise options. So these are all learned lessons, just like Dave had done it. And I went through each of them and took notes on this slide, excuse me, about what's included in each of them. And they're between about 45 minutes and an hour and a half. So we're not going to have enough time today for you to run through a full one of these, but you can pick and choose, you know, even within the lesson, you can go to a specific topic. And I'll just recommend, you know, if your time is limited and you know, aren't going to be able to carve out much time moving forward to play with these tools, and you're interested in the crime analysis piece, I would jump to number 3 and number 4. They get into some really interesting analysis, although they're all really helpful for understanding the capabilities. So just keep that in mind. A couple things to mention on number 3, the optimized hotspot analysis and space-time pattern mining is an interesting little module. So you can just pick up that module and do that one. You don't have to do the 80-20 and the buffers and density analysis, although they're all really fascinating. And then kind of a tack add-on to the optimized hotspot is you can convert your map in Pro to be a scene, so to be in 3D. And then you can use the tool called Visualize Space-Time Cube and just pop up that space-time into a really neat visualization. And that's not part of the exercise, but I just added that on. It's also fun to play with it, and you might have other use cases for that space-time cube. And I'm going to show that too in just a few minutes. On the investigative analysis, number 4, there are a couple renaming of tools. And so what I haven't mentioned yet is, unfortunately, these Learn lessons have not been updated to support Pro 2.7. So they're so you can select the one that applies to the version that you're running. They're available. These lessons are designed for 2.4, 2.5, and 2.6. If you're running 2.7, just choose the 2.6 one, and you will be able to work through the exercise for sure. There are like some slight nuanced differences between naming conventions. The biggest one is under this number 4, investigative analysis. This tool used to be called incident sequence. It's now called points to track segments. And the tool that used to be called incident path is now called generate origin destination links. So it'll be pretty obvious to you once you get in there, but I wanted to mention that right now. And then the final exercise is about creating some of those information products that we talked about. All right. With that, I'm actually gonna stop sharing just for a second because I need to end my slideshow, and I'm gonna share a different monitor moving forward. And I'm just taking a peek at the chat. Pete McGee, you are a criminal? Shoot. Okay, I don't think there are any questions. So
Looks like you're good on questions, Shelby.
okay, thanks. All right. Can you see my screen with the Pro project?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, guys. Well, I am going to start this demo portion with this Pro project. And this Pro project is the one that comes with the deployment of the solution. So when you either deploy it through the Solutions app in your portal, or like I said, you can manually download the solution. One of the things you get is this project. This project comes with the crime analysis toolbar built into it. And the crime analysis toolbar exists as a tab along the top of the application. Now, every time you open Pro from then on, that tab and its capabilities will be available to you. Okay, I'm going to start kind of just on the left-hand side of this tab and talk through the tools. So the first group of tools is called data management. We have add data, we have add that graphics layer, and let's take a look at this import incidents tool right now. So this is one where you can schedule the tool to run on a regular basis to input maybe new RMS or new CAD calls that came in maybe on a daily basis or maybe on a weekly basis. So you would point to the input table wherever it lives, and it can be dynamic, right? So the new load of data, this will just point to that. And then you have a target feature data set that you are pointing to. You can use coordinates or addresses to geocode those records. And so this tool is really powerful because it geocodes the data. You point to an address locator. You can use the World Geocoding Service, or you can use your own locator. And then it also appends the data to your authoritative or to your target features, right? And so that you're able to field map fields into the target data. And so it's basically geocoding and appending into one tool. So, there are other use cases that you might think of right now that you can leverage this tool for. Regarding scheduling the tool, if I had run this tool, I would have this schedule option available to me, but I haven't run the tool. So I'm going to show you that schedule with a different tool. The way to schedule, and I'm going to close this so I can show you where I get it, but under the analysis tab in Pro, there's a history of geoprocessing tools that I've run in this project. So I'm going to open up, I need to go to this second map, so you're going to get a little sneak peek here. But I've already run this tool. And so I opened it back up again, and now I have the option to schedule. Okay, so this is task scheduling right inside of Pro. And so I'm going to say, okay, I want to run this. We're pretending this is the import incidents tool. And I want to run it on a daily basis. Let's do it at, like 4 o'clock in the morning, so that the task is done when I come into work. And I can just start, working on that fresh data when I get there. So I'm going to click OK on that schedule task. And then I'm going to go to my actual task scheduler, my Windows task scheduler. And I'm just going to notice that that new task came in and is ready to rock and roll. So that's pretty powerful that you can schedule it, straight out of the Pro application. You have more fine-tuned control within the task scheduler than you do in Pro. And you can also delete tasks directly out of the task scheduler. You can do that out of Pro as well. There, in my history pane, I have a schedule option, scheduled tools. So I can work with those and configure them directly here as well. Another thing I want to point out, just a reminder, is that you can connect to databases, right, directly into Pro. So you might have an RMS or a CAD system that sits on top of a SQL Server database or an Oracle database. And you can connect directly into Pro and access those tables and use those tables in your import incidents tool. Okay, so moving on down the line here on the toolbar. And actually, Dave, I'm just going to ask if you don't mind just watching the chat, just because I'm not able to multitask that way right now. That would
Sure
be
thing.
much appreciated. Cool.
Still no questions. Right now.
Okay, cool.
You're doing a great job.
Okay.
You're answering everybody's questions.
All right, thanks. Okay, so that was data management, and then moving on to selection. So I know we're all familiar with these selection tools. They're super powerful, right? This select layer by date and time, I believe this is a custom tool built for this toolbar. And while I'm saying that, let's go take a look. So I mentioned that that crime analysis and safety toolbox is now native to Pro. Yeah. I may have misspoken. Oh, no. Select layer by date and time. Select layer by date and time. So this is a custom tool built for the crime analysis toolbar, and it's pretty neat how you can be very specific about your selection regarding date and time, and you can even select using relative date and time. So think about, maybe scheduling something, using that date and time selector as part of a process. Okay, moving on to the analysis tools. I'm not going to talk through each one of these, but they're organized by the different analysis types, and they live in this gallery that's part of the toolbar, which is really nice. I mentioned 80-20 analysis. These are the tools for investigative, like tying different locations together. The emerging hotspot sits on top of the space-time cube. So in deriving an emerging hotspot, you first build a space-time cube. And what that does is it actually kind of pulls apart the data into unique temporal slices. And then the emerging hotspot tells you whether a particular location has been trending hot or trending cold in terms of a temporal pattern. It's really pretty cool. And then there's some new tools that we're not going to dive into today related to cell phone analysis and the repeat and near repeat analysis. The final group of tools are related to information products. So, there's the link chart. This create chart within ArcGIS Pro has come a long way. I'm going to demo that in just a minute. And then here's the new reporting capability in Pro. And then of course you have layout, web map, and web layer. By the way, I'm just now going back to my insert tab, and this new report, it's the same tool, right? And the new layout, that's the same tool. It's just brought together into this toolbar to make it, clean and easy to find those things. Okay, the next thing I want to point out is in this demo project, you guys have a map for every one of the geoprocessing tools that comes with the crime analysis toolbar. And so I picked out a few of them to just highlight, but it's a really nice resource for understanding how to run the different tools that come with this toolbar. Also, each one of those maps has this graphics notes thing in it where, yeah, it's called notes, and it's a graphics layer, I believe is what that's called. And it's really handy. It explains, if you want to practice running the density-based clustering tool, turn off the result and then open up the density-based clustering, geoprocessing tool. And here are the inputs, and this is what it derives. And this is a very handy resource. Now with Pro, right, you can have multiple Pro projects open at the same time. So when you're leveraging the solution and running through these tools, you can view this as as documentation, as a resource to understand how the tools really work. So that's what I was able to do to get up to speed with it as well. So I just pulled out a few of these maps. This density-based clustering is all about service service incident clusters. I pulled out summarized incident count, and obviously it's aggregating data by precinct in this case. This origin destination is always really interesting to me. This one looks at motor vehicle theft and the recovery locations. And then a couple more origin destination type maps. This one is looking at bank deposits made by suspects in a money laundering investigation. And then this next one looks at gang turf and gang member residences, so that you can, start to get an understanding of the patterns there. And I think that's the only one I had pulled. So with that, I am going to open up my other Pro project here. And here we are looking at CAD calls from the city of Rio Rancho, New Mexico, which is just northwest of Albuquerque, by the way. So it's very much a suburb of Albuquerque. And there's about 17,000 records here. I believe this was from about November of 2020 into February of 2021. And I'm going to show you a few different tools using this data. Okay, so I had mentioned the add date attributes tool. And this is the one where you can point to your date and then pull out, and then the tool actually creates fields and populates them with the component parts of that date. And so I've already run that tool in this on this data. And so I'm going to slide over to the right here, and you can see from my date field, I have, day of the week, I have month of the year, day of the month, and then year. Okay, so then what I can do with that type of information is I can start to explore it in charts. And you do need to have the layer selected in the table of contents, of course, when you launch into a chart, so that the chart knows which layer to look to. And so I can first, let's see, what was I gonna, first I was going to show you just chart by year, right? I can also select, a bar in this chart, and it'll select the data on the map. Or we can look at day of the week. And so we can see the day of the week, and then, okay, but this is kind of confusing because it's not in our standard like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So what's kind of neat here is I can adjust. Okay, so I could go, you guys get the idea, but I could go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So that's just a handy thing to note. I can also split by, and so I was going to split by year, and we can start to look at trends of crimes, by day of the week for each of 2020 and 2021. Okay, a couple other chart types I wanted to highlight. One is this data clock. If you guys haven't seen this. Dave, we're still good? You're still with me?
Still with you, still good. No questions right now.
Cool. Okay, so this data clock chart, we're going to point to date. This is pretty neat. We're looking at slices, slices by month right now. And then the inner circle is 2020 and the outer is 2021. So you can see how the trends will really come to life if you have a lot of data in there. I can also switch the wedges to weeks. And then of course, what's neat is I can click into a wedge and it will highlight the data on the map. Another interesting one is the calendar heat chart. So this one is cool too, where we can actually see a calendar chart and each rectangle represents a day. And once again, I can click into it and I can just see the trend, you know, in time very easily using these tools. Cool. Okay, so that was a little bit. Oh, I didn't even realize this clear selection button came as part of the crime analysis toolbar until right now. So that was a little bit about charts. Okay, I'm gonna turn off that raw data and now turn on the 2020 analysis for this set of data in Rio Rancho. And this is where, you know, we can identify, you know, 80% of incidents happen in 20% of locations. But, you know, I can see like a little bit of a trend right here, but otherwise it's really hard to make anything out of this map visually. So let's go ahead and change the symbology of this 80-20 analysis. I'm going to change the equal interval to natural breaks, and we can start to see, you know, some patterns and trends here. But now I can really blow up the size of, you know, the maximum size of point. And now we really can see some trends. And so these are symbolized based on cluster count. So there are 72 calls from that location over those 4 months. And then what's neat too with this tool is it's predefined a label class. So I just turned on labeling and the larger points are labeled, you know. I'm not sure what the threshold for those labels are, but it's just nice that it's built in that way. Oh, the labels are hard to see right now, but they need to be made bigger, but I'm going to move on because I know that you guys know how to do that. Next tool I ran on this data was the optimized hotspot analysis, which is nice visually. You know, it breaks it into the hexagons. And from here, I am going to show you the emerging hotspot analysis that I mentioned, that I described, sits on top of the space-time cube. So if you choose to do number 3, tactical and strategic analysis for your hands-on section portion, you'll run through building that space-time cube using the demo data, and then running this emerging hotspot analysis tool on the data. And I don't have any cold spots appearing in this particular analysis, but we can see some consecutive hotspots, and then we can see some new and sporadic hotspots as well. And what I did with the Rio Rancho data from this point was I ran that next tool, which is called Visualize Space-Time Cube. And it should be in your toolbox. So don't forget to run that, create a new scene, and then run that just for the experience if you haven't played with these, because they're pretty neat. And so, you know, this is, there's Albuquerque, here's Rio Rancho with that same emerging hotspot analysis just now in 3D. Okay, now bear with me because it's kind of hard to work with this data. But, you know, we had looked at that emerging, or what was it called? It was called the new hotspot and the sporadic hotspot. So, you know, we can see some of these trends, and what we're looking at is this kind of pillars of data, and each one of these slices represents a 2-week time frame. So when I first derived the space-time cube, it asks you what is your interval of time that you want to build this on, and you can choose from months to, you know, years, weeks, or down to seconds. And so these are 2-week intervals. It's pretty neat because I can explore, like on this new hotspot, I can explore, you know, what's happening in each time slice. And you can see, oops, you can see as I kind of work up this pillar, you can see the times. So there's a 2-week period right there. And then that one is into 2021. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty neat. Also wanted to show this time slider that I built of the data so that you can you can time enable those space-time cubes in the properties of the layer. And when you time enable data in ArcGIS Pro, it automatically throws up this time slider tool so that you can start to play with this as well. All right, guys, so that 3D part was just kind of for fun there, and to get you doing something different as well. Now I'm going to show some browser tabs that I've got lined up for resources to share with you guys. This first one, I'm going to put into the chat right away. Oh boy, where's the chat? Oh, here it is. And this is a great resource. It describes the crime analysis solution. I'm not going to scroll through the whole thing because it'll make us all nauseous, I think, but it runs through little videos of, you know, the important tools in the solution. So this would be a nice resource to share with other people in your organization that you might want to make aware of this solution. Okay, the next thing I want to show is another law enforcement related solution that is related to the crime analysis toolbar. This one is called the Police Transparency ArcGIS Hub template. So, you know, every ArcGIS Online organization has ArcGIS Hub built into it. And now ArcGIS Hub Basic has all these templates available with it. It used to be that you had to license Hub Premium for the templates. Now they're available to everyone with Hub Basic. And this is one of them. So I just thought I'd throw it up here and make you aware that it exists. And it's designed to be public facing, of course. And it's a website that pulls together, you know, that organizes and pulls together all the content, all the information around an organization's police department. So actual data for consumption, for download, or you could bring it into your own web GIS. There are, you know, placeholders for social media. I'm going to jump straight over to the crime stats page, just because that's what we're talking about today. This is a dashboard that comes as part of the solution. So you would wire up your own data into this dashboard. This is also a gallery that links off to a couple other apps. And one of the apps is called Crime Trends Dashboard. And so I pushed the Rio Rancho data into that app template, that solution template. And you can see obviously that the crimes are shown as hotspots, and then as you zoom in, they kind of pop into their actual locations. Of course, you have the option to hide that and only show the hotspot if you'd like. I don't have all the elements of this dashboard configured, but you know, just to highlight that you can build in filters into your dashboard. And obviously now we're just looking at crimes within that Southeast district, and the elements that are configured in this dashboard are now reflecting only the data within that district. This is the new ArcGIS Solutions website. So this had a recent overhaul, and I might as well drop this in the chat as well. But please check out the other solutions for law enforcement. So we've been talking about the crime analysis solution. There's the police transparency solution. And there are many others for tactical plans. There's the special events. There's a really nice new Vision Zero solution, including a hub template, if that's relevant for your organization. A lot of solutions around around addressed data management, and then some additional solutions supporting the opioid epidemic and the homelessness epidemic as well. Okay, so this would be where you'd go to read about the different options for these templates. You know, each one of these has docs around an introduction to the solution, how to use it, how to configure it. And in this case, there's also a tool reference, which is really nice. So all the tools that I sort of have explained are much more thoroughly explained in this place. Okay, then a little bit on the solutions app itself. So I'm in an ArcGIS Online organization now. From my app launcher, if you weren't aware, there is a new solutions app that lives as part of that app launcher. And instead of using the ArcGIS Pro solutions deployment tool, which is how you used to deploy these solutions, you can now literally just add them to your organization. They're actually copied to your organization when you deploy them in this way. So I'm going to filter on the left for law enforcement. And we can, you'll see these are familiar to what we just looked at in the documentation. The ones that I have deployed, or actually I think it's probably the ones that have been deployed to this organization, have the green check next to them. But if I wanted to deploy the solution, I would just click Get Now, and it would create a folder in my org and drop all the contents of that solution, you know, layers, maps and apps, and any other configurations into that folder. Okay, from here, I'm going to hit that Learn site that Dave has already talked about. I'm going to drop this in the chat. And I agree, this is such an amazing resource. I'm going to say search all content, and this is what I'm going to ask you guys to do to get to the hands-on portion. You have a lot of options to filter the various lessons that are available, but instead just type crime analysis up top. And here's the path. So you need to find the Getting Started with Crime Analysis path. And actually, you know what I'll do? I'm going to put that to one side of my, here, let me do that again. And then the other side, I'm going to do this so that you can see kind of the, like my notes on those different lessons. But the lessons themselves, if you scroll down this path, are here. So it's, you know, here's the data management one, here's the selections and queries, here's the tactical and strategic, investigative, and information products. So, you know, you can dive in, and like I said, a lot of them kind of have different modules for the different sections of the lesson so that you can pull out, you know, specifically what you're interested in playing around with. And with that, I'm gonna stop talking, and I'm gonna let you guys either ask questions or kind of get to work on these hands-on portion. Please feel free to chat any questions or unmute yourself. And I hope you guys all have that crime analysis toolbar already in ArcGIS Pro. But, you know, let us know if there are questions around actually deploying it or downloading it as well. All right, well, thanks everyone. I'm gonna put myself on mute and turn off my camera, and I will be here. Gosh, Deb, I think we had said till 11:45. We had said an hour and 15 for each session. I'm happy to stick around longer than that. I think I could stick around till 12 if that works for everyone. So I'll plan on doing that.
Sounds great, Shelby.
Okay.
So while you guys are all working, I just wanted to say thank you to Shelby and Dave for their time and effort in this, as well as remind you guys that we do have the GeoCortex training coming up on May 13th, Safe Software on June 10th, and Blue Marble on August 12th. This is kind of off topic, but Dave and Shelby, do you know anybody that's doing anything with the crash analysis or traffic crash analysis solution?
I do. It's really powerful. You're talking about the geoprocessing tools for like the high injury networks. And
Yes.
yes.
I just downloaded or I just deployed the solution yesterday.
Cool.
And so I haven't had time to really play with it yet.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I worked with a traffic company in Charlotte a few months ago, helping them build a high injury network. They were really excited about the tools. They did just what they needed them to do. And there's also, so I'm thinking of the Pro add-in.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a really powerful tool. There are, there's a couple different tool sets from different, like there's the there's a Federal Highway Association tools, or there's a couple different tool sets.
Yeah.
I think, in
And
there,
then a RAS something.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it gives you the 2 options.
Yeah. And they just use some different metrics, but there's a lot of really powerful tools in there. If you have specific questions about it, feel free to reach out to me, Deb.
Okay, I will.
I was talking to the Vision Zero guy at Denver about it just earlier this week too.
Yeah,
They're
our
looking for
traffic
something.
guys are trying to decide what solution they want, and they mentioned that they were looking at that one, and I said, well, it's free more or less.
Mhm.
I said it comes with our enterprise license and everything, so
Mhm. Yeah. So if they want to, the tools, are generally the tools to calculate the high injury network and all those intersections and bring in all those points obviously are made for a GIS person because they're using them inside a Pro.
yeah.
But, a lot of, depending on what the folks in your highway department or roads department want, you could be the one to do the analysis and just put it in a map for them. The solution actually comes with a dashboard.
Yeah, it's actually our traffic engineers that are looking at it.
Cool.
It's not the streets guys.
Okay. Yeah, because they want to know where the wrecks are and if there's some engineering that can happen.
And we've been looking at some of that data anyway. We have I think we've got bike, pedestrian, and vehicle accident records.
Cool. The vehicle crash data that I've seen is really, really deep. It has lots of attributes, like 40 attributes on each point, about the type of crash, the damage, the victims, the driver's age. Denver's got a lot of data on their open data site that I've been working with for a while. It's really rich. And then the stuff that the folks in Charlotte had was equally so. So I don't know if there's industry standards, but
yeah, I don't know. We've looked at a couple of different data sets. We got some CDOT data, but the problem with the CDOT data is it only covers like state highways and so forth.
Yeah, it's not very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we've got other crash data. But again, there's issues with it because we don't have XYs for a lot of it.
It's not very helpful, huh?
Yeah, we've got addresses, but they're not like good addresses always.
Yeah.
So,
Dr. Cog I've gotten a bunch of crash data from them. You might want to reach out to Dr. Cog and see if they have any for your area for the city of Thornton.
Yeah, we're part of Dr. Cog, so
yeah,
absolutely, I can do that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Ashley gave me a data set with, I don't know, over 100,000 records in it. I think I've been using.
Yeah, any tips and tricks to configure our data when I get started with this?
No, there's really not much you're going to need to do. Because when you're running the tools, you specify all the attributes that you're bringing in. So you kind of do like the field map as you're running the tool.
Okay.
One other thing that's not part of the solution that's really handy is if you guys have an insights license you can use. That is a really powerful way of just like looking at finding like the 10 biggest intersections kind of stuff.
Yeah.
basic questions you can answer in just a couple minutes that might take you, a couple hours to sort out in Arc Pro. Obviously doesn't create all the gorgeous maps and won't help you with a high injury network, creating the high injury network, but it will help you just look at the data.
Yeah, I'm just looking. Yeah, it looks like we've got 10 Insight licenses and there's only 3 assigned. So I
Yeah, you want one of
definitely
those.
grab one of those.
That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some of your insights, the Grateful Dead stuff, and
Nice. I love it.
it's cool.
Yeah, I love using our technology for interesting things, or for
It's very cool. Very cool.
Things
non-data.
that you wouldn't normally apply geography to,
Yeah.
but they definitely have a geographic component if
Exactly.
you want them to.
Yep, for sure.
So is there anything exciting coming from the Esri world other than, the DUC is virtual again this year?
Yeah, the UC is virtual. I guess we just had like the Fed GIS maybe, doing it all virtual this year. Yeah, it's a drag, but we kind of have to. I was impressed with how we handled the virtual event last year. There's one of the things that I think is really exciting. Well, I think Field Maps is really exciting, but if we got anybody on the call who's using GeoEvent Server or who is looking at or thinking about GeoEvent Server, GeoEvent Server is real-time technology that you run inside of ArcGIS Enterprise. It's a server role, so you can connect to different streams, like AVL systems or sensors and all that kind of stuff. But speaking candidly, a lot of users I work with haven't really deployed it because they need the base enterprise deployment. They need a lot of resources and compute power to run it.
And it's
so it's
10 grand.
And it's 10 grand or whatever, it's kind of always been like sitting on the back burner. Yeah, it's 10 grand, but the AVL system that goes in those trucks is hell of a lot more expensive than 10 grand. It's like,
Oh yeah,
this is a drop in the more. Yeah, I mean, people are paying 6 figures for software that they don't even use, like in these AVL. So it is, not to be coarse, but it is kind of a drop in the bucket. But anyway, aside from that, we have a new product that's come out this year called ArcGIS Velocity, which is taking off like wildfire. It is a SaaS version of GeoEvent Server, so you don't need to have any ArcGIS enterprise-based deployment set up. You don't need to have hardware. It just runs online. But it has more than just the real-time capabilities. It has the real-time capabilities that GeoEvent Server has in it, but it also has the big data analytic tools. So you can do a lot more with it than just the GeoEvent. It would be like buying GeoEvent Server. What's the other one, Shelby? I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. Not geostatistical.
Are you talking? Oh, geoanalytics.
Geoanalytics. It'd be like having GeoEvent Server and geoanalytics, which I think is quite a bit more. But it has all that capability in an online environment, and it's really easy to use. And it came out originally as a product called ArcGIS for IoT, and it was prohibitively expensive for a lot of users because it was just way too expensive. We had sort of a dedicated environment. So, but what we have now is we have 3 versions. We have like a version that costs, I think, like 20 grand or something, and a version that costs like twice that much, and a version that costs like 3 times that much. And there are different capacity levels. The good news is all the use cases I've run through with the team have, for users, like for doing snowplow tracking or emergency management, just typical stuff that we do in government, we're all at the low end of that. So we're all at the least expensive tier. to handle like the kind of throughput we do. The more expensive tier would be through for organizations who just have tons of sensors and tons of fleets and whatever. So that is a really exciting tool that's taken off, Deb. That and a lot of folks are, and the field maps is another thing. I think are the two things we're talking a lot about.
Yeah, what does Tracker run? I know that it's a premium.
Yeah, I'm not certain if it's like, is it $50 or $100, Shelby? Does that ring a bell?
I was gonna say 60 per person.
60 per person. It's
I
some.
think that's what it is.
It's yeah, that sounds right. It might be less. It's really,
'Cause
it's not that much.
I'm curious because we did something different this year. Well, every year is different when it comes to snow removal.
Mhm.
But last year we started a new program, and instead of hiring contractors, we got trucks from our heavy duty trucks with plows from our parks department.
Mm.
And we use a crew of 9 or 10 of our guys and 2 shifts, and they go out and plow the residential streets. And it saves us considerable money over, heavy equipment. Plus it does less damage than, contractors with front end loaders and,
Mhm.
So forth. But one of the guys got really smart because they always just call in, or they have a mobile app that they can use on their whatever device and tell us when they're done with a certain subdivision or area or whatever. Well, one of the guys turned tracking onto his cell phone so that we could just see where he was.
Yeah. So that's the way to do it.
So, I'm just thinking Tracker would be cool because then we could, just track where the guys have been. And then when Joe Smith calls up and says, you didn't plow my street,
Mhm.
we can say, well, that's funny because Jim Bob drove down your street at 2:42 a.m. this morning.
Yep. Exactly.
So I might have to explore that option as well.
Yeah, it's a really nice capability. Deb, I'm gonna just kind of, for you real quick, I'm just gonna share my screen since we're talking about crash stuff.
Oh, okay.
And this is what share button. This is some of the crash data that I got from the city and county of Denver in Insights. Yeah, so I've got like these are all different tabs on the bottom. These are like all different like tabs in a workbook. So this is just on some of the crash data. So on the left, I have all the crash information. This is from city and county of Denver, so it's a little different maybe than much schema, but it actually has a lot less data than what I got from Dr. Cog. So and this is like the time series, so we can kind of filter out the time of all the crashes. We can organize them by another attribute like month, so we'll now have all the different months show up in here for this data set. This is like a few years worth of data, it looks like. One of the things I like is all the interactivity. So we could grab like for example, let's grab like just a day of the week. So we've got this map over here. Let me zoom in a little bit just because it's kind of got a lot of dots in it, but let's just zoom into a little area here. These are all crashes. I think this is like days of the week over here. So I could grab a day, like just all the crashes are there. That's where the crashes are on Mondays. You can see it updates this. These are different types of crashes, I believe. So these are all interactive. All the charts and graphs are gonna change as we click through things. So if you're looking at a certain intersection, I think you could really hone in, or looking at like trying to find like the top 10 intersections, I think you could really hone in with this tool.
Yeah, it'll be cool. I'm gonna, I don't get to do much cool stuff, so.
Yeah, I hear you.
So I'm looking forward to at least playing with the crash analysis stuff and see what it does and whether or not it works for the traffic engineers. So
yeah, hopefully it will. It's I've actually got it up right here. I'll bring it up real quick. somebody, sounds like you've already seen it, but I think I have a copy of it, that project here. Yeah, I was just pulled this up the other day to show somebody. And over on the toolboxes, yeah, these are the tools that come with it,
Yeah.
the US RAP and the Federal Highway Authority. Yeah. So the if you're using the RAP tools, you can assign crashes to like a street segment or to an intersection. That's kind of what that does. And then it does tools to calculate the crash rate, the high injury networks based on the numbers of crashes in different locations, and can create some really nice maps for you too. I don't have any data in here, but those are the tools.
Yeah, they gave me some sample data. The traffic engineers did that has, I think it's got a lot of the information parsed out of it. You know, they kind of parsed it down, but it's got the full address, and then it's got an XY a lot long if they've got it, and then the time and the date, and then an accident number.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't have severity and so forth. But
Mm.
then the bike ones do.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know what they have for their actual data. They just sent me bits and pieces.
Yeah.
So
I would definitely reach out to Ashley at Ashley Summers
Yeah.
at COG. Okay, I would
Mhm.
definitely reach out to her.
yeah, I'm part of DRAP in the data consortium. So, because you know Brandy left, right?
Yes,
And you know Tyler's
and
leaving.
Tyler's leaving too. Yeah,
Actually, Tyler left yesterday. Was his last day.
yeah, I got a note from him too.
Yeah, so I inherited some stuff back.
Some stuff, probably a lot. Hopefully, I'll find some good candidates for those jobs.
Well, they're gonna wait, I think, to hire Tyler's replacement until they hire the manager. I would like to say I'm somewhat isolated from all of that because I'm in infrastructure, but the truth is that I'm really not. So if anybody's looking for a job, Thornton's got a GIS manager job that pays really well. And you wouldn't be my boss. I don't know if that's a plus or a minus. Well, again, I just want to say thank you to you, Shelby, and you, Dave, as well as all the attendees for coming.
Hey, our pleasure. It's nice being with you all today.
Yeah, it was fun. You guys, thanks for having us so much.
Well, and we use Zoom, so you had to learn something else besides Teams.
I'm just a slow learner.
I use Teams at work, and GISCO uses Zoom for all of the meetings and trainings, and we're using it for elevations again too.
Cool.
You guys need to submit your abstracts for Elevations Geospatial Summer Series 2021.
And that's the, you're speaking to the whole crew there, Deb, right? And that's the one we've got one in.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's going to be exciting.
Yeah,
Shelby
it's
and I are doing one
It's a
together.
joint virtual event between us and YGO for those of you that don't know. And we're planning for an in-person event in Steamboat in 22.
Cool.
That's something to look forward to.
Mhm.
Yes, we had a great event planned for last year. We had 20 some odd exhibitors and all kinds of really cool presentations and stuff till we had to pull the plug.
Yeah.
So does anybody have any last questions or anything for Shelby or Dave before we let everybody go?
So Shelby, thanks for answering that. I'm just downloading another I do have an update, so I'm downloading that and maybe the tools will appear.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good, Mary. And get in touch with us afterwards too, if they don't,
Okay.
help you troubleshoot.
And we've
Fascinating
recorded,
stuff. I see a lot of application for that crime just in other things that we do. So that was
Right.
pretty cool.
That's great.
and we have recorded this and it'll be posted to our YouTube channel, but it won't be public. So if you guys need access to it, just email you can either email me directly or you can email questions@giscolorado.org and we'll get that link sent to you so that you can, view this at your leisure.
Cool. Thanks for recording and doing that, Deb.
Oh, not a problem. Well, I'm going to end the meeting then. Thanks, you guys. And we'll hopefully see most of you again tomorrow at the quarterly meeting.
Thanks, Deb. And
Bye.
Shelby and Dave. Bye.
Take
Thanks,
care, everybody.
everyone. Take care.